A little bit warmer in here. I'm going to start at the back here and torque these 4 on the back motor plate. So we're going to torque these at the back here to 35 foot-pounds. To have no nuts on them that they screw into the back of the case. It's a good idea to check these things every, I do them every 10,000 miles or so on a street bike. These top ones are a little bit fiddly. They have nuts on them, especially this side. This is where the ground goes over here on this one. On the left side, you've got 3 ground wires go on there. Your battery cable, and then 2 smaller grounds. So there's actually 2 nuts on here. We'll have to tighten this one up first, and then put a star washer on there, then the grounds, then the battery ground, then the other nut that holds the cables on. Do this right one first though. Let me get this back left one. We can get the star washer on there first. This kind of holds the wires, so when you tighten the outer nut down, it doesn't rip the wires off. Holds them in place. But we got it. Now we just got to fish them 2 wires on there, and then the battery cable last. The cable tentatively on there. Now for the hard part, this little half nut without knocking the cables loose. All on. Now we're going to do these front lower ones up here. Same thing, just torque them down. Now, if you've had the motor out or engine out, this top one right here, there's no nut on it. It actually screws into the right side motor mount there. So you kind of have to line up the top one. Leave the motor mounts kind of loose to begin with, and then tighten. Once you get the top one started, you can go ahead and tighten all the rest of them. And those use an 11/16 wrench on those. If you find that somebody's changing them out to just using a 3/8 nut on there, because these are 3/8 bolts, you need to use washers on there to spread the clamp load out. It helps. Okay, let's get these last 2 on the right side there. Then we'll do the front and then the top. Yeah, that's that one. Now let's do this front over here. Now this front, what you got is a little nut plate there that sits down on top of the frame right there. And the screws go up through the mount into this. And you'll kind of loosely put everything on there, just draw it up so there isn't any gap anywhere before you start torquing. In there, just kind of loose like, we'll get the bolt started. You have to reach down through the top there and hold that nut plate while you put the bolts in. Kind of jiggle it around until it lines up. Going to leave this a little bit loose until you get the motor mount drawn up, so there's no gap in between here and the frame. Early Sunday morning, I had to come in yesterday and pretty much fell out after going in because it was so hot out. Got our nut plate up in there with bolts in it. Mounted loosely up here. We're just going to draw it up to the head a little bit. You still want to be able to move it around because it's not tight up the top yet. So I'm just going to kind of finger tight there. I'm going to go ahead and bring this left side draw it in a little bit. Head there, not really tight. We'll go ahead and draw that all the way up to the frame there on both sides. Can't really get onto with anything, so hand tight is good. I mean tight, you know, at least as tight as everything else. Top motor mount here. Get over here. Okay, this one's got a nut plate too that slides in the frame there. They're 2 different nut plates. This one, the bolt centers are closer together than the front one. I know, because I was just trying to put the top one in the front there, and it just wouldn't line up. So that's what happens when you throw parts into a bucket and then you leave shit apart for a while. You kind of forget. Well, engine mount's just going to sit up on here, and we'll get these 2 bolts started. Now, let me show you this. What I'm looking for here is where the engine mount goes up to the frame. There should be no gap in there. And it shouldn't be sticking out. You know, you got a little bit of movement here. So what they make, or they used to make, there's a shim that goes back here. It kind of drops over to them, over top of them 2 bolts. It's like a little 2 U channels, just perfect enough to fit over them 2 bolts. So if you do have a misalignment, or you just say it's way the hell off, you know, you can drop a shim or 2 in there. I think they're like, I can't remember, like you can get them in like 15 or 30 thousandths, or maybe even 60 thousandths. You go in there, and it's the same. Well, there's 2 different ones. There's one on the front that you would use to get slides up under the mount there, and one back here. But we're up against there good and tight, so let's go ahead and run it down, and then we'll torque it. And finally go drink some coffee, because I haven't had coffee yet this morning. Now this is kind of the same procedure. We're not going to run them in just really tight yet. We're going to just kind of hand tighten them down. Okay, let's check up top here. Yeah, we're good. Now you do have a little slack in these bolts as far as be able to move this mount back and forth a little bit. So that's kind of the reason for just doing them hand tight till everything's meshed up, and then going ahead and torquing them after that. Let's go ahead and torque this down and go drink some coffee and eat a little breakfast. Yeah, that's it for that. So just to recap, back ones get torqued first. If you want to align it up, back ones get torqued first, then the bottoms, then the front, then the top is the last one. On like 5-speed Evos and up, usually the only ones that really come loose is the top. I mean, you still want to check them, but the top is usually what comes loose right here. And sometimes the front, but what'll happen is, you know, it doesn't matter, Sportster, shovelhead, Evo, rigid mount, soft tail, whatever. This torque procedure matters a lot, especially on a big twin. You'll end up cracking primaries if you don't pay attention to it. Usually on those, the top gets loose first, and then the front motor mount bolts will get loose, and then it'll break the lip off the cases there where the primary goes on, or just crack the primary altogether. Typical scenario is that, you know, I've had it happen before where guy's got an older bike and he's been riding. He doesn't really notice because it happens gradually. It's not like one day you hop on the bike and you're like, damn, this thing's really vibrating bad. So what'll happen is a guy will bring a bike in for whatever, you know, a tire or brakes or whatever, who knows. So you always test ride them. You know, you take the guy's shovel head and you take it out and ride it, and you're like, holy crap, this thing vibrates like crazy. So, you know, as a courteous, you go in and tighten the top motor mount, which is usually the one that's loose. You don't even tell them, you just tighten it. Then go ride it again, the vibration's gone. Guy takes the bike and rides it, and then he calls you up and he's like, man, what the hell did you do to my bike? Put a tire on it. Like, nah, there's something else. Yeah, I tightened the top motor mount for you. Damn. And rides a hell of a lot better. Yeah. So, and this is Harley's, but really this procedure is for all motorcycles or anything else, any kind of equipment for that matter. Keep your motor mounts tight and aligned. You will break stuff if you don't, especially older stuff. You know, it doesn't matter what it is. You could be an inline 4, old Honda or whatever. You're still going to want to check the motor mounts and the alignment and everything, and make sure that you're not binding something up. Soft tails. Always had a big problem with soft tails before twin cams, before they had counterbalancers in them. The guys, you know, putting, you know, whatever on there. You know, 3-foot sissy bar, and all of a sudden he's riding down the road and he's got a big tuning fork on the back of the bike there that's just going crazy. Because that's what it is, it's a big tuning fork. Now, I had one time where I was on vacation and came back to work, and they had a Sportster there, like really low miles, like less than 500 miles. And while I was gone for like 2 weeks, I think. While they were gone, you know, the customer wanted his bike, and of course they'd put all kinds of accessories on there and sell it to him, or did it at the first service or whatever. But had a wicked vibration. So they thought it was in the crank. So they ordered a set of flywheels for it, brand new flywheels from Harley, which Harley authorized because while I was gone, certain regional service guy had come by and he rode the bike and said that it needed a set of flywheels. So, you know, I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it at all. So I took the bike out and rode it. And yeah, it did have vibration, but it had an engine guard on here with highway pegs. And when you're riding, you always pay attention to stuff. So I put my feet up on the highway pegs out on the end of the engine guard, and just putting them on there, just having my legs on there, the vibration was about half of what it was before. So I put both feet on the pegs, and I mean, I really pushed on it hard, and the vibration went totally away. So I went back to the shop and opened up the engine guard to check the alignment on it, and one side fit perfect. The other side, as soon as I loosened it up, it moved a good almost 3/4 of an inch, meaning that it had it bound up. So I took it out and actually took the engine guard off and rode it, no vibration whatsoever. And they told me to put a crank in it. I said, I'm not putting a crank in there. Harley said to put a crank in it. I'm not putting a crank in it. Give me the phone. I'll call them. I'll talk to them. So I called them, and first they had me talk to the regional service guy, which kind of a doofus. You know, he swore up and down that it needed a crank because it was out of balance. I called him, and he wouldn't go back on it. He said it still needs a crank. I said, man, you didn't even ride the fucking bike. So I called up a friend of mine at Harley that works in the service desk up there at corporate, and talked to him, and I'm like, man, you got a service ticket on this bike that it needs flywheels? Give me a second to look it up. He looked it up. He said, yeah, so-and-so said it was a bad crank. I said, man, it ain't nothing to do with the damn crank. The engine guard was bound up. But that's just a little anecdote there, a little story about stuff causing vibrations. The more gewgaws and widgets and gadgets you got on your bike, the more likely they are to cause vibrations. Pay particular attention to your engine mounts. Anyway, that's about enough of that. It's getting hot out here already. So thanks for watching. You guys take care. Have a great week coming up. It's Sunday. Got July 4th coming up here before too long. And I don't know, we were supposed to go to Test and Tune on Thursday, and the boy was sick and took a bunch of cough medicine and whatever, and couldn't go. But this coming Thursday, they're supposed to have another testing tune over there at Gallup, but then again, it's supposed to piss rain on Thursday, so we'll see what happens. I don't think I'll be done with this anyway, but you can ride the 883 down there to get some practice in. Just don't really care what kind of time it runs. We met a guy over there at Rockingham that drag races a Sportster, got 2 or 3 Sportsters and a Buell Blast, and bracket races the Buell Blast, and he's hard to beat. It only runs like a 17 or 18 second quarter mile, but he's hell on the light and he's perfect on the dial in. So he wins a lot on that little small, damn underpowered bike, which is kind of how it goes with bracket racing. It's all about consistency. All right, you guys take care. Have a great week.